When taking a foreign language class, you will hear a lot about verb conjugations, and you may ask yourself, what is a verb conjugation, and why should I care? Before we answer that question, you want to be sure that you know what a verb is and can identify the verb in a sentence. To put it simply, a verb is a word that expresses action or a state of being, and it is the most essential part of any sentence in either Spanish or English. If you could use a review of verbs before moving on, be sure to go back and watch the video What is a Verb before proceeding with verb conjugations. Now, to conjugate a verb is to change it depending on who you are talking about and when they perform the action. You've probably done this all your life in English without thinking about it, and now you're going to learn to do it in Spanish as well. When we conjugate verbs in Spanish, we follow a particular pattern based on the subject pronouns that begin our sentences. So let's set up our conjugation chart with those subject pronouns. Note that every single time that you conjugate a verb in Spanish, whether it is a present tense verb in Spanish 1, an imperfect tense verb in Spanish 2, or a subjunctive verb in Spanish 3 or beyond, you will set up your conjugation chart with the subject pronouns in this exact same pattern. On the left-hand side of the chart, we have singular subjects, where we are talking about only one person. In the first place, we have the first person singular pronoun yo, which means I in Spanish. So, whenever you want to talk about yourself alone in a sentence, you will use the yo form of the verb. In the next place, we have the second person singular pronoun tú, which is the informal way of saying you in Spanish when you're talking to one person. So this means that when speaking directly to one person who you would address informally, like a friend, family member, or another person your age or younger, you will use the tú form of the verb. At the bottom of the chart on this side, we have three pronouns. Él, which means he, ella, which means she, and usted, which is the formal way of saying you when speaking to one person. You will also use this verb form when referring to a singular object or animal, any single person, place, or thing that is not yourself. We know that the left-hand side of the verb conjugation chart contains singular subjects, so it's no surprise that the right-hand side contains plural subjects. In other words, when we are talking to or about more than one person at a time, we will use subject pronouns and verb conjugations from the right-hand side of the chart. In the first spot on the right-hand side, we have the first person plural nosotros and nosotras form. Nosotros means we when you have a group containing at least one male. Nosotras means we when you have a group containing all females with no males at all. Vosotros and vosotras mean you all, and this form is really only used in Spain. As you may be able to guess, vosotros is the form we use when speaking to a group containing at least one male, while we say vosotras only if we are speaking to a group of all females. Also note that because this form is not used too much outside of Spain, it will be introduced in this course, but not emphasized. Our last spot on the chart goes to ellos, meaning they when the group contains at least one male, ellas, meaning they when the group is made up of all females, and ustedes, which is how we usually say you all when speaking directly to two or more people in the Americas. You may want to note that there is a movement among young people in many Spanish-speaking countries to employ gender-neutral language when referring to people. Although this movement is fairly new and not yet accepted by most people who speak Spanish, it's a good thing to be aware of. One of the ways that we can use this gender-neutral language is to say ellas, instead of ellos or ellas when referring to a group of people regardless of gender. If you wanted to use this pronoun, you could think of it being in this spot on the verb conjugation chart, and you would still conjugate your verbs just as you would for ellos or ellas. Now that we have set up our conjugation chart, let's look at the verbs themselves. When you are given a verb in just about any Spanish course, it will probably be given to you in what is called the infinitive form. The infinitive form will always end in either AR, ER, or IR, and its English translation will begin with the word to. For example, hablar means to speak, not just speak. Bailar means to dance, not just dance. Comer means to eat, not just eat. Ir means to go, not just go, etc. Now, if you think about it, you wouldn't say I to speak, she to eat, or we to go. In English, you would change the verb to agree with the subject of your sentence, and you'll need to do the same thing in Spanish. Here's how we'll go about it for regular AR, ER, and IR verbs in the simple present tense. Step 1. Remove the AR, ER, or IR ending from the infinitive form of the verb. Step 2. Replace the infinitive ending with the appropriate ending for the person you are talking to or about. Be aware that AR, ER, and IR verbs follow a pattern with particular endings for each subject. Note that we will go into more detail with each of these types of verbs in separate videos. For now, let's just notice the basic patterns. If you want to talk about yourself in Spanish, you will use the yo form of the verb. All regular AR, ER, and IR verbs end in O in the yo form. So you will see that we take the verb stem that we were left with when we removed the infinitive ending, and we follow it with an O. Now, instead of saying hablar, meaning to speak, we say hablo, I speak. Instead of saying comer, to eat, we say como, I eat. And instead of saying vivir, meaning to live, we now say vivo, I live. Let's look at the tu form of each type of verb. When speaking directly to someone in the informal tu form, AR verbs end in AS, while both ER and IR verbs end in ES. So, now we have hablas, meaning you speak, comes, meaning you eat, and vives, meaning you live. If you want to either speak directly to someone using the formal usted form, or talk about someone using él, meaning he, or ella, meaning she, then you will place an A after your verb stem for AR verbs, or an E after your verb stem for ER and IR verbs. Now we can say, mi amigo habla español, my friend speaks Spanish. Ella come tacos, she eats tacos. Or usted vive en los Estados Unidos, you live in the United States. While we won't go into the other verb endings in detail in this video, you should get the idea and be able to see the general patterns. Now you will want to see the individual videos for each type of verb conjugation for specific rules and examples for that verb type.